welcome to Successful Launch. So be thinking about writing down what are the characteristics of successful CEOs that are pivoting, thriving in this new COVID economy, and to be thinking about which ones have to do with knowledge, communication skills, or your attitude. We're going to be diving into that. The main point of today may not be to answer all of your questions, but it is to help you think of what are the questions that you need to ask and where to go to get the answer. So it may not answer all of your questions, but it's to get you to ask the best questions to the right people. So Alicia, if you want to welcome, I'm going to unshare so that you can pull up your presentation.
And I'm going to welcome everybody and welcome to Open Doors. You want to open doors to a profitable business, right? So welcome. We're joined today with SBDC and the CEO Accelerator. We're appreciative of Russell Teeter and our partnership with SBDC. I'm Alicia Moran with the Small Business Development Program here at Prince George's County Economic Development Corporation. Next slide. So lots of Prince George's County resources. If you didn't know this, and if anybody's from other counties know your county may also have resources, but in Prince George's County, we started a Buy Prince George's campaign to support our businesses during the COVID era. We encourage people to buy local, shop local, support local businesses. Pathways to procurement, we've had different series, pathways to financial management, pathways to procurement. So if you'd like to go online, all those sessions are online on our website and you can find out more information there. And there'll be additional pathways programs that we're doing. Take Tuesdays, again, we were highlighting our restaurant businesses. We have a Spanish speaking business development expert who deals with our Latino community. And we have a Spanish speaking program highlighting those companies and resources for our Spanish speaking companies owners. Business spotlights, again, spotlighting our local businesses. So lots going on here in Prince George's County. Next slide, please. So I run Innovation Station, which is what you can see behind me. This is our business incubator and collaborative co-working space here in Prince George's County. We've been doing everything from First Friday coaching sessions. And we also have been hosting a series during Global Entrepreneurship Week. This year, Global Entrepreneurship Week is November 8th through 14th. So for all your entrepreneurs out there, take a look into Global Entrepreneurship Week and sign up. There are programs all around the world and you can learn a lot during that week. I would also suggest to anybody on this call, the Maryland Business Reboot Program that was done by our very own University of Maryland. University of Maryland College Park is here in Prince George's County, as well as Bowie State University and University of Maryland Global Campus. I would just let you know that the University of Maryland and the Smith School of Business did a great program that was available to all Maryland residents and business owners. You can go online and look through the Reboot series. They covered everything from finance and marketing and a host of with lots of experts. Next slide, please. So who is your business development team? So I'm just one of the team members here. These are my colleagues. We have a great team here in Prince George's County. Everybody from Mike dealing with technology firms and John Mason dealing with construction and manufacturing firms, David Lewis dealing with our government contracting industry sector, Martin Azima in the international business, Larry Hens dealing with some of our larger development projects, Andre Plummer, who deals in our finance division and incentives programs, Alexis, who is working with us in the healthcare arena, Nicole Hall, who you've probably heard a lot from dealing with retail and restaurants, and Ebony Stocks, our fearless leader, our executive vice president, and of course, Crystal Ballard, who keeps us all glued together. So it's a great team. You have lots of resources here. You have lots of experts. You have Rocio Tempra Lopez, Rocio's is our Spanish speaking expert, and she does Spanish speaking, Spanish focused, Latino focused programming. And we just did some great programs with the Governor's Office on Small Minority and Women-Owned Businesses. Next slide, please. See, I knew that I was going to leave somebody out, and there I did it. Anyway, site selection. What are we all about? We help you with site selection. We help you with permitting assistance. We help get you to capital, right? We assist with federal, state, and local incentives and getting you to those incentive programs if there is something available to you. There's also workforce development programs, whether that's training programs or internship programs that are out there. We host educational workshops and other programming. We do coaching sessions. We have access to counselors and mentors. And so we're always connecting our small businesses to resource partners and to customers and to capital. These are things that we do on a daily basis. We are here to try to help support you as a business owner. It's your job to run your business. It's our job to help you get the resources you need to help you run that business. And so that's why we're doing today's program as well as others. We have a business incubator. As I mentioned here, there are other business incubators also in the county. We work collaboratively, PGC, EDC, to support all those business incubators. We've actually gone after grant money to supply grants to companies within the business incubators as well. We provide matchmaking services, help with certification and procurement support, etc. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of all the places that you may go for small business support, as well as many others. This is some of the resources, not even all of them. The library system in Prince George's County, as well as other counties, is a great resource. Cecil County won a White House Award. Anne Arundel County is very dynamic in this space. Again, all your local libraries, check them out, see what kind of resources they have for you, an entrepreneur. SCORE volunteers, and again, offer free resources to and counselors and mentors to you in industry sectors. SCORE is a key partner of ours, just as SBDC is, and just as the Women's Business Center is, and others. So anyway, next slide, please. We are all about fostering innovation and entrepreneurship here. We're about economic gardening, right? So we're about growing our locally owned businesses here and supporting our local entrepreneurs. We want you to grow here, so we're focused on job creation, business retention, business expansion, business attraction. We want companies from overseas to come and say, yes, we want to invest in Prince George's County and actually start a business here and hire local employees here. So we're all about supporting the economic development mission of all those aspects here at Innovation Station and through our small business services. Next slide, please. And that's it. I just want to thank you. And I want to turn this program over to Peter. You can reach out if you would like to at the main number, and then direct dial also. So I'll put my information in the chat for everybody. Thank you so much. Russell,
Okay. Yep.
you.
Thank you. So that's an example of one county in the state. So if you're from Prince George's County or in Prince George's County, click the raise your hand button just so that we can get a sense of how many. And then if you're from a different county across the state, put into the chat what county that you are in. Now, we talked about success. We talked about resources. So Prince George's County Economic Development is one resource within your county. All of you have a different county. So as I'm talking about resources, keep that in mind. The point is to connect with your local economic development, and all the resources are in your county. Now, to me, one of the greatest demonstration of success was the true story of Eric. Eric was the first blind person to ever climb Mount Everest. And I remember showing this video. So if this was before COVID, we would be sitting in a room together behind what you see in Alicia's picture of the Innovation Center. And I'd be actually showing this video, but this story, I remember showing it. It wasn't in Prince George's County, it was a different county. but a person to the left of me said to the entire group, and I'll never forget this. She said, quote, "If a blind person can climb Mount Everest, is there anything I cannot do in business?" I mean, that was an amazing statement that she said. Think about it. If a blind person can put everything together to reach Mount Everest, is there anything you can't do in business? Now, let's look at success. So there was studies done originally by the Carnegie Foundation, restudied by Harvard and Stanford, and is the essence of Dale Carnegie training. And Dale Carnegie training explains this as in the form of a triangle. How is success of any kind happen? And what they found is that 85% of success comes from one's attitude and their communication skills. Now, the aptitude, your IQ, your knowledge is the base of this triangle. Don't miss that. Having the knowledge, having the IQ, the aptitude is the base of it. That gives you the right to be in the door, as I say, okay? But when it comes to success, even though you have that base of the triangle, it's only 15%, where 85% of success has to do with one's attitude and their communication skills. So remember that. Don't forget this. Now, let's dive into your business. Okay? In business, there's two sides of this triangle. One is the technical aspect, having technical knowledge. But success in that technical side, 85% of that is one's attitude and communication skills. Okay? Now, the other side of it is the business ownership side. Two different sides. One is the technical side, the other is the business ownership. So we're going to give you some knowledge, to increase your IQ, your aptitude in business ownership. But remember, 85% of your success in that area has to do with your attitude and your communication skills. Don't miss that. Now, to me, one of the books, I call it the Bible of starting growing a small business, is the book E-Myth. I encourage everybody to read this every year because it speaks to you where you're at. So if you have read it, read it again. If you haven't read it, get it. So put a chat, raise your hand. If you read it before, raise your hand. Put it in the chat, your commitment to getting this. Now, what small businesses, the fatal assumption, that's what the E-Myth, the myth part, is this fatal assumption that business owners have. This is your big takeaway. Don't miss this. That if you understand, this is the fatal assumption, if you understand the technical work of a business and you understand a business that does that technical work, you're going to fail. The technical work of a business and a business that does that technical work are two totally different things. So the book is a story of an interview between Michael Gerber, the author, and Sarah. And Sarah had a pie baking business. And just because she learned how to bake pies from her mother did not automatically mean that she knew how to own a bakery. Owning a bakery and baking are two totally different things. The technical side and the business ownership side. So whatever industry you're in, if it's programming, if it's plumbing, whatever it is, you could be awesome at that, but that doesn't mean that you know how to own that business. Owning it and doing it are two different, and you need to have both to be successful in business. And we're going to be talking on the business side. Right now, we're not going to be talking anything about the technical side of your business. If it's IT or electrical, construction, whatever, we're not going to be talking about that. What we're going to be focusing on is the knowledge that you need to get on the business ownership side. So one key thing, another key principle from this book, and there's lots of them, but we don't have time. Alicia's giving me a hard close deadline. So I'm going to be throwing out a whole lot of information in a very short amount of time. Actually, I'm going to give you 36 hours of information in about 60 minutes she gave me. But one of the other key principles from this book is that there's ultimately one reason to create a business of your own, and that is to, quote, sell it. Now, it could be that you're selling it to a family member, selling it to employees, or just right out selling it. So we're going to dive into that. But remember, to create a real business, and when we're talking the difference between a real business and being self-employed, the difference between those two, and how to create a real business despite COVID. Now, this is the other other book that I really encourage people to write. Wealth, how to create wealth and to maintain that wealth and transfer that wealth onto other family members, was something that was verbally, the principles of it was verbally shared between one family member to the other. It was verbally shared how to do it. That's why in world history, most wealth maintained within a few families. Andrew Carnegie was an exception to that rule. He grew up poor and became extremely wealthy in the steel industry. And then he sold his business. And what he did is he commissioned a guy named Napoleon Hill to research the 500 wealthiest people of the day and to put in writing the very first time how to become rich. And so what we're going to do is very quickly go through the principles that Napoleon Hill found from researching the 500 wealthiest people of that day. This book was published in 1937 at the height of the Depression. So very relevant to today. However, it is written to those that would read it back then, which were white men. And it was written, in 37. So it has that math. So there's other books to bring it to more modern day, other books to bring it to specifically groups that the original book missed. So I encourage you to get those. Now, what are the principles that Napoleon Hill found? So what every wealthy person, don't miss this, every wealthy person had a written statement of desire. They knew how much money they wanted by when and why they wanted money. Now, he also found out that every wealthy person, not only did they have a written statement of desire, is they had faith, they believed in it. The first leg of the journey is being able to see yourself with that money. If you cannot see yourself with that money on that date, guaranteed, you're never going to have it. The first leg of the journey is being able to see it. Now, all these wealthy people were building their faith through what Napoleon Hill called autosuggestion. These are the chapter numbers from the original book and how they were feeding their faith was from two sources. Your mastermind group. Your mastermind group are people that you can interact with. And we started off with your mastermind group of your county economic development. Those are people you can interact with. So there was a reason why we showed the pictures and went into detail. We couldn't do all counties, but just showing you the depth of what a county in Maryland can do. So you need to be connecting with your mastermind group, building your mastermind group. The other is your virtual board, people you cannot interact with. You cannot interact with Napoleon Hill. You cannot interact with Andrew Carnegie. Why? Because they're dead. So that's the difference. Mastermind people you can interact with. Virtual board are people you cannot interact with that you need to read. So giving you the attitude for growth, the aptitude for growth, and the amplitude is my A word that has to do with communication. That end starts with an A and ends in an ood, get an amplifier. So if we were in person together, this is where you would be laughing, how I got them all in A's, the N and an ood. Now, what is faith? What is the real, so type into chat your definition of faith. So type it in. So what is faith? Yeah, it's what you believe. Yes, you got to be able to see it. All those things. I'm not minimizing those things that you're putting in the chat. Okay, it is all those things. But what is ultimately the definition of faith? It's action. It's taking action every single day towards your statement of desire. Think about Eric. Eric believed that he could climb Mount Everest, even though he's blind. He could see himself on that peak. Even though he's blind, if you watch the video, the movie, he could see himself there. But it wasn't until Eric took that first step out of Nepal did he really demonstrate faith. That faith is taking action every day towards that statement of desire.
So we have some information. People are saying faith is believing in something.
It is believing, but it's more than believing.
Believing and taking action towards my goal.
There you go. It's action. One of the people that that summed up Think and Grow Rich to me the best is you're the same today. You're gonna have the same amount of money, the same amount of time, the same amount of everything in 5 years, unless you change who you're hanging out with and you change what you're reading. If you are hanging out with the same people, you're reading the same or not reading the same things. And when I say read, when I say books, it could be from an audio standpoint, videos, things like that. But if you're not changing, you're gonna be the same. So if you haven't connected with your county, you haven't connected with the SBDC, if you haven't added those people to your mastermind group, do it. If you already have, add new people, new resources, and change what you're reading. We're going to be talking about some things already mentioned too, but we're going to be talking about more things. Now, becoming rich is really, really simple. All you got to do is 3 things. All you got to do is follow those spending money. solving those people's known problem better, faster, cheaper. And communicating to people their way, not your way. 3 simple things. Now, those are simple, but it's very, very hard work. It's hard work to be always looking at who's spending money because it changes. It drastically changed with COVID. It's hard work to be recognizing who are those people's known problem. Keyword there is known. You could have the cure for cancer, but if the person doesn't know that they have cancer, you can't solve it. They don't have any money, going back to the first one. It doesn't matter. Those spending money, keyword there is spending. Some of the wealthiest people I know, because we're not talking about necessarily following wealthy people, but some of the wealthiest people I know are some of the cheapest people I know. I'm talking about follow those spending money, consumers, businesses, government agencies, who's spending money, solving their known problem better, faster, cheaper than the true competition. The true competition, it's hard work to be always recognized because it changes. The direct competition, indirect, substitutes, and then communicating to them their way. It is simple to communicate our way. It's hard. It's easy to communicate to them your way. It's hard work to communicate to somebody their way. You really need to think. So let's talk about using the illustration from Eric. Right? Let's talk about the different types of businesses. Because you need to begin today, wherever you're at. You could be starting a business. It could be that you're launching, or it could be that you're relaunching your business. Begin with your peak, get my analogy, peak in mind. Begin with the end in mind is the exact quote from Stephen Covey, but begin with your peak in mind. We're going to be talking about your peak because I have an acronym to help you with that. Now, so when watching the video, you saw that Eric went through different base camps. Okay. So base camp 1 is creating a good company. That's self-employment. Peak 2 is a great company. Peak 3 is a lasting company, using some language from the book Good to Great. Now, using another illustration to help explain the difference is a good company is like renting a home. Where having equity is like owning a home with a mortgage. So if you rent a home, you're paying rent, and you stop paying rent, you stop living there, and you can't sell it. Self-employment is where you're working in the business, and you stop working, you stop getting paid, and you don't have anything to sell because the business is you. The second peak is like owning a business, owning a home with a mortgage. So yeah, you're paying your mortgage, and eventually going to start having some equity, and then when you're looking to sell it, it has some value. You have some debt, but it has some value. Peak 3 is like owning a home without a mortgage, where you get to live there, you're not putting anything into it. And when you sell it, you have all this equity, all this value. So a lasting company, a true company, is a profitable business that works without you. So you're making money without having to work, so that you can ultimately sell it. Now, if you build it to sell it, what is the absolute worst thing that you have? You have a profitable business, because you look at what somebody wants to buy it. Nobody's going to buy a business that is unprofitable. Okay. Nobody's going to buy a business that is all revolved around you. They want to buy a business that doesn't need you. So if you build to sell your business, the worst thing that you have is a profitable business that works without you, that you choose to keep. In no way, shape, or form are we saying you have to sell your business. What we're saying is build your business so you have that freedom of choice. Isn't the reason that you're launching this is to give yourself more choices? Now, there's nothing wrong with renting a home. Nothing wrong with it. But recognize what you have. There's nothing wrong with having a business that sells self-employed, but recognize what you have and the limitations of it. Now, Eric had to go through these different base camps. You're going to have to go through self-employed, building some equity to get there. But what Eric did was just imagine if Eric just packed his bags with enough food and water to get to peak 1, even though he had in the back of his mind that peak 3, I wish for it, but he didn't pack his bags with enough food and water. What would happen? Well, when he got to peak 1, he has 3 options. One is restart. I spent a lot of my time with businesses that are restarting. They didn't build with that peak in mind. So when they got to peak 1, they go, oh, I want to have this real business. And they got to restart. They didn't take the principles from this book. Option 2 is push forward. So just imagine, visualize Eric pushing forward with not enough food and water. What's going to happen? He's going to die. So option 1 is restart. Option 2 is keep moving forward and dying. Option 3 is be content where you're at. So don't lose this principle. If you want peak 3, nothing wrong with the other peaks, but if you want peak 3, you need to begin, pack your bags to get to that peak. Even though you have to go through the various base camps, build with that peak in mind. Now, just to sharing some statistics with you. Every business owner falls into one of 2 pits. The first pit that every business owner falls into, and again, I've been coaching over 14,000 business owners, is the first pit they fall into is they wake up and they say, oh my, I have no customers. Now, every business starts with what I call the honeymoon phase of business ownership. They start off with their friends, their family, and early adopters. But then every business falls into this first pit and they don't have customers beyond it. The second pit, if you make it out of the first one, the second pit is when businesses wake up and they say, oh my, I have too many customers. They have their whole business on their fingertips, and one little thing goes wrong and the whole thing implodes. They don't use the principles from this book. So if you are starting your business, when you read this, you're going to say, oh, this is not going to happen to me. If you're in business and you read it, you're going to say, oh yeah, I lived it. I feel Sarah's pain. So for pre-ventures reading it, it's really hard for them to grasp it. But I want you to grasp these principles, and you don't do what business owners who have already started and read it. And I literally had people in front of me crying, men in their 50s crying because they feel Sarah's pain because they've lived it. Understand this. Now, let's throw some statistics in here. For every 10 businesses that start, they all fall into the first pit. And only 1 out of those 10 actually have nurtured beyond their friends, family, and early adopters. So you need to nurture beyond to be in that 10%. Otherwise, you're going to be in that first pit and never get out. Now, you take 10 of those that make it out of the first pit, and all 10 fall into the second pit. And of that, only 1 climbs out, meaning that they have deployed these principles of creating the systems. And when we're talking about the systems. Now, so you think in the math here. So out of 100 businesses that start, only 1 creates a real business. And again, a real business is a profitable one that works without the owner to ultimately sell it. Nothing wrong with creating self-employment, but if you want to create a real business, you have a 1% chance of success. So what the SBDC is here to do, what your economic development office is here to do, is to help you be in that 1%. So how do you do it? So what I'm going to do is I'm giving you 36-hour program in 60 minutes. I think that's all you've given me, Alicia. So we've already talked about E-Myth and Think and Grow Rich. So building your business, deploying basic project management principles. Your business is a project. We're going to be following the Toyota way of looking at where you are now, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. Because it's looking at your business as a project. Hardest people to understand and adopt this principle are project managers. People who do it for other people and they don't do it for themselves. Then the book Effective Executive and the book of How to Win Friends and Influence People. So let's dive in the little bit of time that we have left. So to me, the model strategic growth plan was written by Dr. King. Now, a lot of people think it's I have a dream speech. That was a speech, great speech. But it's his letter from Birmingham jail is a model of how to create a growth plan. So there's 3 steps that Dr. King followed, and we're going to follow those 3 steps of how he created a great plan. And I wrote an article with somebody who was with that worked in Dr. King's organization back in the 60s. And we wrote an article and we made an argument that because if Dr. King wrote his growth plan in the business of his day, he would have wrote a good one. But because he was in jail in solitary confinement, he wrote a great one. So one of the key principles of launching your business is getting out of the day-to-day busyness in a place where you can do the worksheets that we're going to be going through. Now, another key principle is just imagine if Dr. King stared at his circumstances. Just think if he stared at his circumstances. What was his circumstances? Jail. Just imagine if he stared at those prison bars. Dr. King looked beyond them. That's why he had a great. So Dr. King, and what we're going to be taking you through is these steps. Opening your mind. Dream. That ultimate goal, that ultimate peak you want to build to. Building on the opportunities that you can address, that you can utilize. Addressing the obstacles that you can control. Utilizing the resources. And then take the courageous steps. So let's look at the 3 steps that Dr. King went through. Step 1, this is how you create change amongst these storms that we have. Thinking and dreaming in solitude. These are the worksheets that we're going to be going through. Then having a 1-page plan of goals and priorities. That's step 2. Step 3 is that external one. So these are, so Dr. King, he was in solitude. He thought about these in solitude. Then he was given a notepad and he put his thoughts on the notepad. Then he wrote the external version. The external version, the primary purpose was for financing. His primary purpose to get white clergy to financially support the civil rights movement. He had the resources of volunteers to march, but he needed money. So the 3 steps, think and dream in solitude. Step 2 is your growth plan. Show you some examples of that. The 3rd is the external. What a lot of business owners do is they do in reverse order. They write that external to get financing. Then 2 and 1 are in their mind. And it's amazing. Don't miss this point. It's amazing how business models work in your head. So as I get people to put it down on paper, to write it out, they see themselves that it doesn't work. You got to put it on paper so that you can see that on paper it's going to work. Think and dream in solitude. Internal growth plan. And then the external. So we sent you some worksheets. So take out these worksheets. I want you to look at them, and we have a few minutes to see if anybody has any specific questions on any of these workshops for you to be thinking and dreaming in solitude. You got to get this on paper. So looking at these worksheets is the statement of desire. That's your passion that drives your business destination. That purpose you have drives that job to be done, and that profession making money. What a lot of small businesses, they're servicing, they're getting the job done, but they're not making any money. Big businesses, they're making money, but they forgot about the customer not getting their job done. So it's creating that balance. So let's go through the worksheets. So take out the worksheets, have them in front of you, pull them out on a screen. So we're going to go through them together and then chat in any questions. So the first worksheet, your statement of desire. Writing down how much money do you want, by when, and why? Why do you want money? Now, I've coached over 14,000 business owners in all different industries. I can't even think of an industry that I did not consult a business in or coach a business in. 80% of the time why I'm looking at a business that does not successfully launch or a business that does not survive and thrive. 80% of the time, don't miss this, 80% of the time, I take them back to this. They don't have a reason why they want to do the hard work. It's hard work. Answering those three questions: who's spending money, solving their no need, better, faster, cheaper, communicating their way. That's hard work. It's simple, but it's hard work. And 80% of the reasons they're not growing, they're not, is because they can't answer the question why. You got to have this statement of desire. Why do you want to make money? How much money do you want to make? See yourself with that money. I can't emphasize enough, is you got to be able to see yourself with that money. Now, I was working with, so if you have any questions, chat them in so that Alicia can share them with me.
Yep.
But giving you one example, chat them in. One example is I was working with a business owner and he wrote down 10 years. He wanted $1 million for each of his 5 kids and for his wife combined. So that was $6 million that he wanted in 10 years. He wrote that down, okay? But we looked at the second worksheet and he didn't have the business model that was going to create it. So it was unrealistic. It was unrealistic. So worksheet 2, just introducing it, is your business. Making sure that you have the business model that's going to support it. So looking back at worksheet 1, having that statement of desire. Lisa, do we have anybody that chatted in any questions on it?
It may be a little larger of a question. It's basically, what if you have the desire and a game plan, but you do not know how to get money to start working on your plan?
Okay, well, that's the external part. So we're going to get to that. So the first leg of the journey is looking at how much money you want by when, and most importantly, why. Now, what Napoleon Hill found in his research, wealthy people read this statement of desire. Not only do they have it, it's worksheet 1, they read it 2 times per day. They read it before they go to bed. Before the 1950s, we thought, scientists thought, that our mind was resting when we were sleeping. Napoleon Hill documented this, and again, it was written in 1937. But it wasn't until after the 50s that it was actually documented that our brain is actually working more while we're sleeping than when we're awake. So by reading your statement of desire before you go to bed, your brain is actually processing it and working on it as you're sleeping. And then reading it as soon as you wake up, the first thing you read before you wake up. So your whole day is based on your statement of desire. Now, how big, now turn to worksheet 2. How big your business, so the statement of desire is all personal, okay? All the things you're willing to do for money. Worksheet 2 is about your business. Because you could have other sources of income than this business. So this is where the PEAK acronym. So profit represents cash home. So I know your accountant may do other things to, describe it, but I use the P for profit to get into my acronym because cash, C-E-A-K, doesn't spell anything. So PEAK does. This is where in a live session, you'd be laughing and ooh-ah that I was able to get everything into an acronym. But so how much money you want to take out of the business? 12 months, 5 years. Economic value, how much would you want to sell your business for on that specified date? Again, it's not about having to sell your business, but it has that value, so you have that choice. The A, activity, the keystone, think of an archway. That keystone is what holds it together, an archway. And what makes you you? Now, 98% of the time, the keystone is days away from the business to do that keystone. 98% of the time, that's what it is. There's other ones that we can talk about. Some people had, some other things, but 98% of the time it has to do with the business giving you days away. So do worksheet 1, which is that personal statement of desire. Now look at what your business can get out of it. Eric had a huge statement that he wanted to make of people that had a disability. That was his statement of desire. Thus, because he had a huge statement, he had to climb a huge mountain. If Eric had a small statement to make, he could have climbed a small mountain. Your statement of desire, your business destination needs to be aligned. How big your desire is how big your business is. Small desire, small business. So do we have any questions on worksheet 2?
No, we don't, but I
Okay.
think it's important, Russell, if you can kind of set the stage a little bit. People may want 4 weeks of vacation, but running a small business is one where you often don't get sick days or vacation days in the early days, right? So since these are folks just looking at starting a business, maybe we need to kind of walk through that.
Yes, we will. So hold that thought, okay? Because I'm going to show you how to get 4 weeks off starting out. So worksheet 3 is now we're looking at more in depth in your business, the mission and the vision specifically of your business. Focusing on who's spending money and solving those people's no problem. So that worksheet is thinking 5 years out. And then this is something we look at every year. So mission and vision. A lot of companies have a mission statement. Very few have a vision. A vision is a narrative picture where you want to be by a specified date. So using the acronym pillar, and I put in there an example of a mission and vision statement. Again, with the mission, getting away from talking about your features. I have the example in there of a cybersecurity. Nobody buys cybersecurity. What do they buy? They buy, what job are they hiring you to do? They're hiring you to protect their client data from malicious users. That's what they're hiring you to do. So get away from the features and focus on the benefits, the results, focusing on the job they're hiring you to do. Vision is a narrative picture of where you want to be by a specified date.
Somebody is asking about defining the audience.
All right, yeah, it's thinking of, okay, in the next 5 years, who's going to be spending money? It's getting in that solid time, looking at resources, collecting resources from the county. Who do you think in the next 5 years is going to be spending money? Now, worksheet 4 is now honing in on specific in the next 12 months, ranking clients A, or prospects A, B, and C. What are their demographic characteristics? What are their geographic characteristics? What are their psychographic, their buying behavior is what psychographic means. Looking at who an A is, who's a B, who's a C. Now, the next 12 months, find those 3 keyword adjectives that focus on your A's without disenfranchising your B's and chasing away your C. Those keywords need to be focusing on your A's. A classic way of doing this is to identify your A's, specifically, talk to them. Find out why do you buy from us if you're in business? Why would you buy from us? What are you looking to do? Finding those 3 keyword adjectives. So in part 2 of the series that we're doing with Prince George's County Economic Development is going to be diving into this worksheet, diving into specifically the job to be done and how to define your 3 keyword adjectives and to be able to communicate to them. So do we have any questions on worksheet 3 and 4 before we get to 5?
Do they lead to the same end from your past experience, referring to statement of desire and auto fixation? There was a conversation in here about auto fixation was Napoleon Hill's system each night to speak to himself in front of the mirror before retiring to sleep. He allowed what he called universal intelligence to work on it. Is it the same as reading the statement of desire?
It's going deeper. So step 1 is reading it twice, but it is diving deeper into what did you learn from your mastermind group? What did you learn from your virtual board? So he had dialogues with himself to process all of it. Because if you try to take everything, you're going to take nothing. So it's really, so in this workshop, great, bring it up. Take away 3 key things. Only 3 things. Because if you try to take away everything, you're going to take away nothing. So take away from this 3 times. You can watch it again, take another. So what was the takeaways that you had during the day to feed that auto suggestion, to build that faith from your mastermind group and your virtual board? Great question.
So here's another question. It is super difficult to get in front of my prospective clients. They are hardest to approach and convert, but definitely most profitable. Should they still be customer A?
Oh, great question. You know, you have to look at what you can control. So can you break through? And we're going to give you some strategies, ideas to help you with that. I'm going to email it to you. Actually, I'm going to give you 60 some ideas to help through that. A great question, and it all depends. So we can set up a time to dive deeper into that, because that's really more of an individual question. Can you, or is that beyond your control and you're hitting yourself against a brick wall? With the whole thing, it's looking at making sure that this is a door to open, not that it's a brick wall. If it's a brick wall, you're just going to be beating your head against the door. You got to be looking at, truly, is it a door that you can open? So they may be a B. They may be a C that you just, you're tempted to go after them, but they're beyond your control because they're not approachable. They're not convertible. Okay, now let's get into worksheet 5. Worksheet 5 is very challenging. So take a deep breath. Now, in worksheet 2, you talked about your cash home, that profit. All that worksheet 5 is setting sub goals. So, I have people that write down, they want to take home $80,000. Well, what is the math to get to that number? How many people do you need to reach out to, prospects and leads? That's two-way communication, right? So you're reaching out, I call them suspects. And they reach back to you, they're prospects. So what is your goal? These are sub goals, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. What is your money-making model? Is it the number of visits and the average amount, hours, units, contracts? So the principle is to drive 5 by 10%. Each of these 5 areas. So let's break in. So chat in your questions. So hopefully I'm going to answer a lot of your questions. Again, your goals, these are smaller dreams, need to be specific, measurable. You only can improve what is measured. You only can measure a number. Achievable. You have to see yourself. Can you communicate with that number of people? Can you see that number of people buying from you? Can you see them coming back that many times? Can you see them spending that much per visit or by contract or unit, whatever it is? Can you see taking that amount of money home? It's got to be achievable. They need to be relevant. So worksheet 5 is relevant to worksheet 2. Worksheet 2 needs to be relevant to worksheet 1, and then with a timeline. So these are the 5. Now the others are just part of the formula, but these are the 5 things that you can drive. So let's do some really quick math. So hopefully I'm going to be answering a lot of your questions. Again, these are sub goals. Now, if you have a past, you can be looking at the past, which will help you in the future, but it's still setting sub goals. Okay. So, how is your business, between customers and revenue, breaking your business down into 2 areas? It could be visits. So the transactions, your business could be visits. It could be hours. A lot of service contracts are based on hours. It could be a contract size. Okay. So look at your business setting goals. Can you see it? Okay. So let's take it's starting with where you have the highest confidence in and using algebra to solve for what you don't know. And a lot of this is guesstimation, but it's looking to see if what you have in your mind works on paper. So let's take one part. Okay. So you got to determine the number of transactions. So you determine the number of transactions divided by the number of customers. So we're working on that middle part of the equation. You got to start with some numbers. So put some numbers down and see if the math works. So that's how let's say you think, okay, I can do 2,631 transactions in a year, and I think I can do 750 customers in a year. I think my revenue should be about 700,000. Again, you guesstimate. So how do you solve for X? Remember algebra in school? Got to get X by itself. So that gives you that purchase amount, just using algebra based on what you have the highest confidence in. So from the prospect, to get 10 clients, how many do I need to communicate with 2 ways? So out of 100, I say, okay, I'm going to get 10% to communicate back to me. Or 1% out of 100, that would be 10%. You're just using algebra. That gives you that number.
So Russell, he's looking at, somebody's asking, can we complete the worksheet? So I think that you are kind of completing the worksheet. If you look at worksheet 5 and pull it out, you're walking them through the conversion rates, customers,
Yeah,
etc.
just some examples.
You can give a
It's
real
just all math. It's setting sub goals. So don't overthink this. It's getting on paper how your business is going to work by numbers, because your whole business is numbers. So if you're in business, this is the order that I advise people to work on so when you're in business, look at these 5 areas in this order. So you may have to take a little bit of step back if you're in business to move forward. But the whole thing is, what are you going to be during this next 12 months and increasing each of the 5 areas by just 10%. That's a 61, that's creating a money-making model. That's a 61% increase year over year, 983% over 5 years. Say, well, Wes, how do you know this math? Because your business is all math. You either know the math of your business or you're going to make no money. Your business is all math. Now, just a little bit of science. But studies have proven that if you set a goal, that's a 1 to 2% increase naturally. If you measure it, it's a 1 to 2% increase naturally. That means that if you set a goal, things are going to be naturally happening because you're moving something from the subconscious to the consciousness of your mind. If you're measuring it, same thing. Moving it from the subconscious to the consciousness, and you're going to start doing things. So that all you need to do is come up with strategies of 4 to 6%. So when you break down if you're only focusing on profit, it's only a 2 to 4%. If you're only focusing on revenue, it's only going to be a 2 to 4% naturally. But by breaking down your business into these 5 areas, looking at increasing each one by 10%, it's called continuous improvement. Making a small increase, it's going to have a dramatic result. Now, this is the essence of where you need to be right here. Here's a visual of it. Asking yourself, what are you good at? Asking yourself, what can make you happy? They may be different. And then where can you make money? Something that you're good at and you're actually happy at, you may not be able to make money on it. It's balancing those 3 things. It's getting in that time and place, balancing those 3 things. Because you have storms. There's actually 3 storms going on right now. I call it the Bermuda Triangle effect. So Napoleon Hill outlined Gandhi as a person that had the most faith in modern day. So what did he do? He chose the most powerful empire in known world history at that point to lead. So what storms do you have? I call it the Bermuda Triangle effect. I mean, what they found with the Bermuda Triangle is that 3 storms can merge. It's the only place, one of the only places in the world, and the only place in the world where it's a major shipping and freight route, with 3 merge. We have right now, we've had recessions. We've even had stagflation, which they're talking about us going into. We've had those. We've had crises like 9/11, like the pandemic. But we weren't in the middle of recession during when 9/11 happened. And then we have cultural changes that happen like every 50 years. All these 3 storms have happened, but this is the first time in known history, all 3 has happened at the same time. So how do you navigate around a storm? It's answering these 3 questions that I talked about. Getting in that time and place. What I found in coaching businesses is a lot of times they know the answer to these questions. They just need somebody else to ask them. So there's 10 things, 5 that have to do with money, 5 that have to do with time. And it's really stirring up, spending some time in solitude to stir things up. So that's why I'm going to send this out to you. But actually, you received this worksheets of asking you questions to get you to think. I could ask you 5,000 questions. But it's just a sampling of them. Okay? I'm going to give you a total of 457 resource ideas. This is where a lot of seminars spend a whole lot of time. And I cut this time out by typing these 457 for you. Now, what you want to do is spend, and I haven't sent it out yet. I didn't want to overwhelm you, so I'm going to send this out to you afterwards. But I want you to go through them. If you've had a past, what will work? So there's 344 on making money, broken down this way, the 457. And then on the sustainability side, that's that second pit that I'm talking about, putting those in place so that you don't implode in that area. So that's applying a lot of the principles from the email. Because what you need to do is wealthy people find what's called their trim tabs. So how do you move an ocean liner? How do you move an ocean liner? What moves an ocean liner is a rudder. Now, an ocean liner, a rudder, can be several stories high. So what moves the rudder is the small thing that's called a trim tab on an ocean liner. That's actually what moves. With the marvels of engineering, when that trim tab moves, the rudder moves, and then the entire ship moves. So you're not thinking about these huge things. Remember that 10% principle. I'm increasing each of these 5 areas by just 10%. All of the strategies I'm going to send you cost no time, no money, or little to no money. I love the home selling analogy of these trim tabs. Look at this home. There was no structural changes. There were small trim tabs to make a wow impact. So finding your trim tabs, building that value. So, we're not going to spend time, but how a business is valued. Right? It's 2 things. We're looking at profitability and sustainability, as we talked about. You having both time and money. Profitability, so the business is profitable that works without you. You're having that time. There's 10 things that you need to focus on in your business. So worksheet 12 is finding those trim tabs. This is following the Rockefeller principle. Rockefeller removed his business every year and did this process. So, creating that one page of your goals and priorities, just real quick, throwing a whole lot of things at you. We can spend time later building your business. Okay. So these are the why businesses fail. This book really dives into it, but I love the principles of this Hoshin Connery, following the Toyota way, Chick-fil-A way, and the Disney way. One of the most dangerous statements you can make as a business owner is, I'm going to work till it's done. The key thing in business is you're not going to get everything done. You got to distinguish between the most profitable activities that are going to reach you to your goals and the whirlwind. These are unprofitable or less profitable activities. I spent a whole lot of time on, we call it time management, but it's really time mastery, because you cannot manage time. It's an oxymoron. But a question that I ask, and you're gonna need to ask yourself in that mirror, that talking about that, what Napoleon Hill talked about, what wealthy people do, is, are you doing the most profitable activity, or are you consumed by the whirlwind, which are less profitable or not profitable activities? So here's an example that I walk people through of looking at trim tabs from the goal of weight loss, and then how to measure it. The lag measure is measuring the goal. Lead measures measure what you can do to achieve the goal. You know, here's a real business example. There's somebody that came to a session with me, you know, drill down to what they could focus on, and then how you do it. This is something he pulled out of those 457 that I'm going to send you. And he was measuring it, which employees were doing it. He found out his first follower was Jay. So I'm throwing a whole lot of things to get you to be thinking. Again, the whole point of this session is to get you to think and where to turn to find the answers to the questions. So this is my daughter. So in horseback riding, the goal is to win a ribbon. And the short-term goal is to jump a short-term versus long-term goal. Oops. So she got disqualified. So she had to look at herself, everything that she had to do, what was in her control. And even her own instructor said, you did everything correctly. So here is the next event. Two things. One, she won a ribbon, 2 ribbons, okay? But what do you see different? There wasn't anything she could do. She had to fire the horse. So you see that she had a different horse because she did everything right. The horse did not want to do it. So be thinking about, you know, these are the asset investments. If something's not working, can you correct it? Is it in your control? If it's not, you need to replace it. Looking at processes. It's 3. That's my breaking down of the E-Myth book. You know, breaking down a business into 27. 9 of them have to do with marketing. Diving in. This is what we're going to be diving into in session 2 with the county. That brand strategy drives lead generation, drives sales conversion. We're going to be diving into each of these areas. That's why it's longer than 90 minutes. So these are the 9 areas that we're going to be addressing, both for B2B, B2C, B2G. So looking at the operations, telling us stories. This is a journey mapping example, how you deploy it. This is an example of a business. It's in Columbia that I worked on. I didn't do the graphics. Looking at the third, the organizational side, breaking your business down. So how do you get everybody deployed on the same page? So here's an example of a growth plan. Like this is following the Toyota way. Okay. So long-term versus short-term. That's why I like that grid. It creates that alignment. So I'm going to send this to you, how to do this. This is how you put it, you know, looking at selling your business in the next year. What are your goals? What is your primary goal? This is worksheet 10. This is how you put it on there. Looking at what are you specifically going to do? This is a Gantt chart, project management principles. Now, here's the answering to the question. 4 weeks off. How do you do that? Okay, you ready? Ready, Alicia? How many weeks are there in a month? 4. How many months are in a quarter? 3. 4 times 3 is 12. That's how we think. Here's a principle. Manage your business on 12-week quarters. There's really 13 weeks in every quarter. 52 divided by 4 is 13. But manage your business on 12-week quarters. That gives you 1 week off per quarter times 4 quarters. Manage your business on 12-week quarters. Answering these questions. Now, real quick on the external, take out that worksheet. Looking at bank debt, collateral, they're looking for commitment. Here's some things that external version. When you're communicating, ask this question. Don't be in a position that you need money. Put in a position that you want money. So I sent this to you. So look at this. This answers 95 to 98% of an underwriter's questions. What questions is the underwriter asking? So you see that narrative part, people tell you to write that 25-page narrative. Well, underwriter doesn't want to read it. If you can't get it into 4 paragraphs, you can't say it. What does an underwriter want? The numbers. All the numbers that we talked about. So it's taking that internal plan and putting it on your external. They may ask for more. They probably will. But these are, in 2 pages, everything that an underwriter wants. Okay, so here's some quick math of what an underwriter is looking for. To make sure you have the cash flow. So you can use this formula to how much they want to see, either in your past business or your personal financials, if you're a new business. So there's different types of lenders. And during the PPP, it was really key that you had a relationship with more than one type of lender, because your bank may have not done PPP. And the businesses that deployed this having different relationships with the 4 different types of lenders. Now we're going to be diving into one type of lender, which is more in the community and the government side. So we're going to be looking at FSC first. So I'm going to stop sharing so that we can pull up his presentation. Jordan, can you pull up? We lose Jordan? Oh, there we go. Okay. So this is FSC first, as one example.
Thanks, Russell, and hi, everyone.
So just so everybody knows, we had a pre-record that.
Open doors to a profitable business. I'm Eddie Tuvin, and I'm with FSC First. I'm their Chief Lending Officer. And I'm going to share with you some information today that hopefully will provide some insights into how to better get funding. For your business. Let me start by sharing my screen so that you can see who we are and what we do at FSC First. So my background is in lending for 30 years, also a Turk, go Turks, and a Smith Finance Fellow that attends networking night and has worked with a number of different students to help them in their career paths, as well as a number of different students to help them with financing for their various different business concepts. And what I'm really proud of is the amount of jobs that we at FSC First are responsible for supporting and ensuring that they remain in the county and that we continue to grow as a county. Our mission is to assist the state of Maryland as well as the Small Business Administration of the United States and several counties and cities with facilitating specific loan programs. And we also administer grant programs when they are appropriate and come to fray. Let's continue with Russell's theme about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. being in Birmingham jail, writing this now very, very famous letter, and relate it to what he was requesting and what you as entrepreneurs are requesting by the way of finance. And one of the most important things that I think you can gain from this is that in his second paragraph, he comes out immediately and he says, I think I should give the reason for my being in Birmingham since you have been influenced by the argument of these outsiders coming in. And that's how you have to set it up for either the banker or any other equity you're seeking to raise for your organizations. Because when you're looking to convince, if you bury it deep down, it gets lost and you lose the attention span and the focus, and you don't set where you are from the very beginning. And that's what I see as a failure with the loan application packages that I receive. I have to hunt and peck to figure out what is it they're asking for. Even though the application has fill in the blanks and you would think that they might get that, I don't get that all the time. And so make sure that as an entrepreneur seeking to raise funds, you defend your business strategy and convince a lender that you can actually repay the debt you seek to borrow on the first of the month, every month. This is exactly what they're trying to review. Are you that person that can ride that horse around the track? And you don't necessarily have to finish first, but you have to finish on time every single month and make your payments. Or you have to be able to provide some sort of a return to the equity dollars that you've received and that are invested in your business. He also talks about why. I mean, you just get into that immediately. And when you get to the fourth paragraph, he tells you, look, I know, I'm aware of the interrelatedness of all these communities and states. And what you have to be as social scientists saying, I see a need in the marketplace and I'm going to provide a solution for it and explain exactly what it is. I mean, the reason for your model and your concept. What Dr. King sees as a need, he provides a solution. Help me raise money for the civil rights movement, and we'll put an end to this discriminatory practices here where some people are considered to be different than others, even though we're all human beings. The Lean Startup, I think, is a great book for any entrepreneur to read. Eric Ries makes some really important points about what it takes and why. And from my perspective, one of the things that really, really hits home is that and I'm quoting him where I say the fundamental activity of a startup is to turn ideas into products and measure how customers respond, and then learn from your mistakes and successes, whether to pivot or just persevere. And today, more than anything, you really need to make sure that you're flexible and you understand what your pivot strategy might be, because having come through the pandemic, we've seen so many people have to make pivots. You know, the distillery in Gaithersburg, Maryland, that converted itself to making hand sanitizers and so forth, or the sit-down restaurant that said, we need curbside and we need something profitable, and just started making pizza and ended up making 20% increase, you know, month over month for 2 different comparative years, greater revenues selling pizza out the door than it did having people come and sit down. And now they should be keeping that as a revenue source and going forward. But Eric finishes by saying, all successful startup processes should be geared to accelerate the feedback loop. You always have to be focused on that. And I also say that when you're getting in front of any of these individuals where you're dealing with raising money, that you need to answer the questions before you even get in the room that they're going to ask. One of them is always debt service coverage ratio. For every 1,000 in debt, do you have $1,250 in free cash flow? And do you understand that that means a 1.25 debt service coverage ratio? You might as well learn to speak their language and show them that you're focused on it, because that's what a manager is supposed to do. While you're guiding the ship, you are looking at the information that you're getting, which is your financials. You're getting your interim income statement and balance sheet all the time. There's a lot of ratios that come off of that. There's comparative ratios to the specific industry that you're involved in, and they all should be giving you early warning so that you can keep the ship navigating through the proper direction that it should be, which is towards profit and away from failure. Also, things like what's your loan to value? You know, what collateral do you have to offer? That's important. That reduces the risk from anybody that's placing any kind of credit facility with you. What's your debt to equity ratio? And do you know how to defend whether it's reasonable or not reasonable? And then, you know, what does it mean to have an 800 FICO score? Now that relates obviously to your personal credit, but people view your personal credit as a demonstration of how you handle your finances. And if you don't handle your finances, your personal finances well, how are you going to handle those of others? And then the last one that I put on here was what's an equity injection and proof. Where's your money coming from that you're going to put in the deal for me? Because, you know, he who has the money rules. And as the old saying goes, if I'm putting up 99% of this equity for this business, I want 99% of the stock. So make sure you have it available. And particularly for the kind of lending that I do, it needs to be there, and it needs to be something that you can prove that you were able to earn over a certain period of time, or you need a gift letter from somebody that shows that you were able to get these funds. Show up with business in hand already. In other words, come in with a validation of why my plan is working, because you actually have some customer relationship. Somebody's willing to purchase your services, buy your products, something that says this is more than just, you know, a paper that I wrote that's a great idea. And I like the words that Stephen Blank wrote in his book, The 4 Steps to the Epiphany, which you can get online, which were that very few startups fail for a lack of technology. They almost always fail for a lack of customers. And that's true. I mean, we see this all the time. So take a read on that. Now, for those of you who are really early stage, you know, there's a number of platforms that you can go to. Now, I always say the most important thing about lending is that you've got to be in the right church on the right day, in the right pew, in the right seat, but also in front of the right priest. And I say that as it relates to bankers and equity partners. Just because you went to a bank that you think makes a loan in the industry that you're interested in pursuing, it doesn't mean that the lender that you actually meet with is the one that has the specific expertise in that area. So you have to make sure, again, that you focus very specifically to navigate through to get to that one person that has that amazing expertise, that has done multiple businesses similar to yours, understands all the ratios and what the comparables are for it, and can actually speak to and inform their loan committee that this makes sense. Now, if it's crowdfunding, the same thing. You need to make sure that you find that right crowdfunding platform that has the ability to address the individuals who are going to understand your business. And I just mentioned 4 of them here, which may or may not be appropriate for you, but there's obviously a lot of others. This deck is going to go out to everybody, so if you didn't get a chance to write it down, don't worry, we'll be sending this to you. later. Now, FSC First is really for some early stage, but mostly we're at a later stage. So our primary lending program is a vehicle from the United States Small Business Administration for the acquisition of commercial real estate. And it has to be owner-occupied commercial real estate. It's available across the country, but we only lend in Maryland for that program. But we have other programs that we're involved with that could be appropriate for some of you. Our micro enterprise loan program, which is for working capital and equipment, you can see where we'll lend $25,000 to $50,000 might be appropriate. If you're going to locate within the city of New Carrollton, for example, we may have some funding for you to help with remodeling an office or things like that. That may not help you. We have our Small Business Flex Fund where on behalf of the State Department of Commerce, the State of Maryland Department of Commerce, we're helping with working capital without requiring a government guarantee for funding loan loss reserves. So that is a support of $25,000 to $250,000. And then you can see some of the others, which I don't think are necessarily appropriate for what you're doing. Our EDI fund has to do with creation of jobs, and many small businesses aren't going to create the kind of jobs. We've done hotel deals where there's 100 and some employees, or things of that nature where they make sense. If you're already in a facility and you're going to do something where you're going to reduce your energy load and you're going to increase renewable energy usage or water conservation or something like that, we manage a program for CPACE, it's called Clean Energy Program. Then as we go on, you'll see that we have a Strive for 35 program for Washington Gas. If your business is involved in something to do with natural gas, they're always looking for lending up to about $50,000 with that program. And City of Mount Rainier gave us some funding and so forth for their funds. And we do some things with the county. I would say that I'm available if anybody is interested in discussing some of these ideas. I have a great Rolodex. I'm more than happy to link you up with people if I can, and my contact information is right here. And again, it'll be shared with you, and we'll go from there. So thanks for attending. Really important step for anyone who is looking to move forward. And I'm really appreciative with the SBDC. Thank you, Russell, for having me. Alicia, thanks Prince George's County Department of Economic Development for having me. And hello to all my friends at Maryland and the Smith School. Best of luck to everybody.
So putting it all into perspective, and to close out, I love using the driving analogy, looking at where you are now, that's the green, where you want to be, the red, 5 years from now, look at where you want to be a year from now on the way. So where do you need to, what you need to do, the road you need to travel on to get from where you are now to where you want to be a year from now, on the way to where you want to be 5 years from now. So looking at that road for excellence, how to create that type of organization. So talked about take away 3 things. So here's my big takeaway. You've got to create more time. Get unprofitable activities off your plate. You cannot do everything. Focus on identifying those most profitable activities from the whirlwind. Create more time. Focus on the activities that are going to generate you more money. I'm going to give you 457, most of which are on the generating money standpoint. And then when you have more money, buy yourself out of a job. So when it comes to questions, I'm going to email out everybody's contact information. I'm going to email out so you can directly ask your questions to your situation to the right people. With that, I'm done. Alicia, do you have any other final words that you want to share?
Nope, I just want to thank everybody for coming and participating. The worksheets are really key. Once you read through those, you'll see that Russell was probably talking at a higher level, but really this is about getting you thinking, right? It's your business. You're going in business to make money. You want to know what your numbers are. You want to know how you're going to find your customers, how many customers you're going to need, etc., to build out that successful business, and then to get the financing that you may need to support that business. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for participating. There'll be additional workshops coming up, as you heard Russell mention, and Prince George's County is always doing additional workshops as well. And again, you can access Russell for a direct consultation or myself for a direct consultation, as well as others within the ecosystem we have to support small businesses here in Maryland and here in Prince George's County. Thanks so much.